Hi, this is Todd Toback, and welcome to this interview of the Southern California Real Estate Investing Podcast. And today actually is our first interview with another wholesaler from Southern California, Tim Murray. And Tim, I've been wanting to get you on an interview for a while because Tim just wholesaled a fantastic deal in Los Angeles. It was a tough deal, but it was a great deal. And I love to actually get down and dirty, right in the trenches, to hear what's working with other wholesalers, what's working in this market specifically, because let's face it, Southern California, it's different, right? It's more competitive, it's harder to get deals, but when you get them, the deals are much bigger. So Tim, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna extract the goods from you today. Hopefully you can share what's working for you, for other wholesalers out there, and share your wisdom. So welcome to the podcast and also on YouTube.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Tim, tell us a little bit about your background in real estate and kind of how you decided to get into wholesaling.
Okay. Well, I've been investing in real estate since about 2002.
Okay.
Bought a few properties, done a lot of additions, remodels, bought about 24 properties in Florida. And that was up until the market crashed. And then now, I got back into real estate about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
Flipped a few properties and done okay.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you've got a pretty extensive background. What made you decide to start wholesaling, or do you wholesale on a regular basis?
I do a bit of both. I buy properties and I flip them. I actually do the full rehab
Okay.
from beginning to end, and those are pretty big paydays. But also do wholesaling as well, and those are more quick flips.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, one of the reasons why Tim and I are doing the podcast today is Tim gave us a wholesale the deal with us in Los Angeles, in this house. Actually, I'm not going to give you any of the details. Tell us a little bit about how you tell us about the house itself first, because when I saw the pictures of this thing, I was like, "Whoa, this thing is it's special."
Yeah, yeah. It's a property on Long Ridge, which is in North Hollywood. Uh, and yeah, it was a very overdeveloped for the area. The owner, I actually contacted him about maybe 8 years ago
Okay.
and asked him if he wants to sell the property. I called him on the phone and asked
Okay.
him if he wants to sell the property. He said not interested, and he hung up on me. It was
Right.
about 8 years ago. Okay, so I contacted him about maybe 6 or 7 months
But
ago.
let me stop you for a second. So
Yeah.
how did you know to call him 8 years ago?
Okay. Well, basically, there's a list that the city puts out. It's called a code enforcement list.
Okay.
And that's just properties that have everything from garages that people have converted to living rooms, or they're doing unpermitted additions,
Right.
or they're doing construction that is unpermitted, or they got some code violations because the house is vacant, so the city comes and boards up the property. They put a big fence around it and stuff like that.
Right.
So from this list, you can do title reports, or whatever, and you can see who the owners are. You can see their mailing address.
Right.
And you can see how to contact them. So I contacted him, like I said, about 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I'm not sure. Called him. He hung up on me. All right. So I was doing the code enforcement list again about 8 months ago, and I couldn't get hold of him. So I actually drove out to the mailing address where he lived,
Right.
knocked on the door. I was kind of
Love it.
nervous.
I love it. Love it. Love it. That's how you get the deal, baby.
Yeah, because you never know what kind of crazy person's going to be, sitting behind the door.
Right.
So I had the mace, my hand on the mace, just in case there was anything weird going to happen. I was ready to, maybe he has pit bulls. Who knows what's going to happen when I
Right.
knock on the door. So I knocked on the door, but the guy came. I knocked on the door, stepped back about maybe 6 or 7 feet, so he doesn't think I'm trying to do anything crazy. He came out, and I said, "Hi, I'm here. I'm interested in the property in Long Ridge. Just wondering if you're interested in selling it." And he stepped out, and he's like, funny, you should say that, blah blah blah. And we started talking about the property and all that stuff. He says, "Yeah, I actually have been thinking about selling it." So I said, "Wow, great." So we talked a little about it, and I said, "Well, how much do you want for it?" He's like, "No idea. I'm gonna sell it sometime but I'm making plans and this and that. And we started talking. It wasn't a one call close. It wasn't just like, okay, well, here's the purchase agreement, sign it, and goodbye.
Right.
There's a lot of building rapport. And I said, okay, well, do you know how much it's worth? He said, nope, no idea. So I said, well, how much do you want? So he says, he told me that he's been getting all these letters from other real estate investors. He had boxes full of letters that he had received over the years.
Right.
This guy, he started construction on this house. It used to be a one-story house, and he made it a two-story house. He started construction on the house about 25 years ago and never finished it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Real procrastinator. I mean, he's a
Right.
nice guy, but you know what I mean?
Right.
So the reason I found out the reason why he wanted to sell it is he owed his brother money. His brother had lent him about $100,000 to finish the construction or something like that.
Right.
And his brother wasn't charging him interest. He didn't have to make any monthly payments. But his brother kind of wanted the money back. He said, my money's been tied up for like 20 years or something. I think you should kind of pay me back soon. And he's like, yeah, I'll pay you back, blah, blah, blah. So what are you going to do? You going to sell it or what? So his brother was kind of in a nice way, I won't say pressuring him, but asking him to come on, do something with the house.
Right.
And so so I said, let me do this. I went back home. I did a little research on it. I went, Zillow, got some values. And I said to him, and I went back to him with the information that I have on the property. Said, this is what I think it's worth. This is based on the current condition, and I mean, it was bad. I mean, and I said, once it's finished, it could be worth this much, but you have to take into consideration how much it's going to cost to finish it,
Right.
and it's way overdeveloped for the neighborhood. Meaning the houses on either sides are maybe like 1,200, 1,500 square feet, and your house is like almost 3,000 square feet.
Right.
So even if you finish it, you can't say it's worth, 600,000. The
Right.
houses on either sides are worth about 400,000. So you tell me what you think it's worth.
Right.
So, and then he was like, oh, well, I mean, this and that. And we went through a whole bunch of stuff. So I said, how much you think it's worth and how much do you want for the property? And he came up with, he said he wants $275,000. That's what he
Right.
wants. I said, okay, well, is that the best you could do? Yep, that's what I want. Okay. And then, so I said, okay, well, I was gonna have him sign the purchase agreement right there, but he seemed like very hesitant. So I said, well, can we go to the property? I need to get the contractors out there, so I can get some ideas on the cost of the construction to finish the project. So I went out there and I met him a few times, and I went and met him there. Then we signed the purchase agreement. And he agreed to sell it to me for $275,000. In the purchase agreement, it says and or assigns the buyer has the right to assign the contract,
Right.
escrow. Okay, which I basically learned from you because I've been listening to a lot of your podcasts.
Right.
So and then after that, I thought, great. Okay, the house fixed up, could be worth about 550 or 600 or something, maybe. Okay, this is kind of it's very optimistic, but it could be used as a rental, could be used as, maybe some elderly care thing. I don't know, whatever. So I got the property under contract, and then I contacted Anchor Loans. They do wholesaling as well.
Right.
So they have a list of buyers. So I put on a contract and I called them and I said, are you interested in this property? You guys want it? Do you want to send it to your wholesale list or whatever? They took a look, they crunched the numbers. They said, no, it's not a good deal. 275 is too much. If you can't go lower, forget it. So then I called you. I called Justin Williams and wanted to see if they wanted it. They ran the numbers. And they said, no, we don't want it at 275. Forget it. So then I said, okay, fine. Thanks for getting back to me. I called. First of all, I didn't really know how to get hold of you or your office, but I went on the.
Well, that's good. That's good because one of the purposes of this video today is to share how. Because that was third choice. I'll take it. Let's go.
Well, there's a reason that I would have gone first choice, but I didn't. Your number. You see, when you got a hot deal, your number wasn't like at top of my speed dial.
I know. So I'm going to change that, baby, now, baby.
I didn't have a really relationship with you. I knew about you from listening to your podcast, but
Right.
It was more like, do I want to bring him a junk deal, a bad deal? I wasn't sure myself if this was even a good deal.
Right.
Because, Does it cost 100,000 to finish this house? Does it cost 200,000 to finish this house? Is it even a good deal? I don't
Right.
know. I mean, do we have to renegotiate the price? Is the seller gonna like? There's too many things going on. So I was like,
Right.
I don't want to burn my bridge with Todd Toback, by bringing him a bad deal. You bring a bunch of bad deals, like, he's not gonna like that.
Sure.
Okay.
Hmm.
So that's kind of why I sent it to them first. But anyway, long story short, I brought it to the people at your office, and they took a look at it. They said, yes, we are interested in it. And then I guess you sent over a co-wholesale agreement, and you asked me how much do I want. I said 10,000 would be nice. You said yes, you get 10,000, and that's it. So sign the co-wholesale agreement. Then I guess you sent an email blast to your buyers list, and the funny thing is, one of the groups of investors that were on the buyers list was the Anchor Loans.
Okay.
Okay. And they were interested in buying it. So then they sent me an email saying, yes, we want the property. And I was like, okay, you just passed on it. So
Right.
that ship sailed. If you wanted, contact Todd.
Right.
So anyway,
Uh,
because they actually sent their contractor out there, and they contract before I even wholesale, co-wholesale it to you.
Right.
They sent their contractor out there, and they said, no way, we're passing on this deal. It's too much
Right.
money for construction. So anyway, you sent it out. I guess you email blasted to your buyers list. Got a few people out there that were interested, and then so we had one sort of open house where I think there were about 5 or 6 people that showed up that day.
Right.
Okay. Then those guys were also kind of nervous. They're like, I don't know, this is going to cost a lot of money to finish this house. It was almost like a tear down
Right.
because this house had been sitting with just the elements coming in.
Hitting it.
I mean, coming through the roof. When you walked in the rooms, you could look through the ceiling and the roof, and you could see the sky.
Right.
So just mold and wood rot, and it's just almost like you had to rebuild the house in some ways. Okay, so is it really just land value? Like, what are you buying there?
Right.
So anyway, you email blasted it again to your buyers list, and then I think we're gonna have about 15 people show up that day. Lee, your wholesale manager, he went there. I met with him. We met with the seller. The seller was real nervous. He didn't want to just
Sure. Everybody
he didn't
in.
want to just let me go and sell the house. He wanted to
Right.
be there for everything. Okay, and I discussed with him putting it on the MLS. He didn't like that at all. He didn't want to do the MLS deal. He just wanted a cash buyer to come in and
Right.
buy it. I think he was worried about liability. He didn't want the general public coming in and out there, and because it was very hard. There was no stairs to get to the second level. There was a ladder that he had sort of rigged. It wasn't even a real ladder. It was kind of an old. It was a weird thing that you had
Right.
to climb up
It's in bad
to
shape.
get to the second level, and then when you were on the second level, there wasn't even railing and stuff. So people, I mean, a novice investor or a person who's not really an investor could go to that house, at night or whatever, and very easily fall down and get
And hurt
hurt. And
themselves.
instead of
Right.
him making, 100,000 or whatever, he could lose a couple 100,000
Right.
from liability and stuff. So he was kind of nervous about that. So anyway, so I guess you blasted it out to your wholesale list and your buyers list, and you had a buyer, and they came in and they bought it. They bought it.
So I guess because that was we got a lot of details there. So I remember one of the things was great was that there was some title issues that we fixed up and cleaned up. Closing took a little bit longer because I guess the brothers had to sign, but we worked on that together. But in the end of the day, I mean, it was a tough one, but you got your check.
Yeah, I got my check. I got my 10 grand. That was great. I
Awesome.
needed it at the time. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the title issues. I mean, this property it was quite a lot of work. Meaning, the guy wasn't super organized,
Right.
and when he signed the purchase agreement, he didn't sign it with it. I mean, he signed it, okay, and I said, great, I have a purchase agreement. He's the owner, and I thought he was the only owner, but he wasn't the only owner.
Right.
He was owned by him and his 2 sons or stepsons,
Right.
actually. Which was a whole thing, So I had to actually get the stepsons to sign it, but I couldn't get hold of the stepsons, and he didn't want to give me their phone numbers for whatever reason,
Right.
because he didn't want them to get half the money or some crazy thing like
Right.
that. So I had to sort of orchestrate a mediation agreement, which he was nervous about as well. And I told him, I said, if he said to me, he said this, my sons told me they wouldn't want anything to do with the property. As far as they're concerned, the property's mine. So I said, well, great. Well, then if that's the thing, just email something over to them, a letter, and they'll sign it. They'll sign the property over to you,
Right.
and you can just go ahead. He said, I don't have to do that. They already told me it's mine. I said, I know you don't want to do it, but escrow has a certain way of doing
Process.
things,
Right.
and paperwork that needs to be signed. Then we had to get a copy of the trust. It was a
Oh
whole
yeah.
thing, It was
Right.
a whole thing. But anyway, we met at the mediation,
Right.
and that actually went a lot better and I thought it would go. I thought they would start fighting over the property, but no.
Just went through.
They
That's
it
awesome.
so basically it was agreed that he was going to get 50%, they were going to get 25%, 25%. The only sort of argument was over he had paid the taxes on the property, his property that he lives in, and that property for a few years, and he just wanted to be paid back for some minor thing. It wasn't
Right.
even a big deal. And after about like 10 or 20 minutes at the mediation, they were joking and laughing and they were having a good time
That's
and they were
great.
all pretty much in agreement. It was all fine.
I love the win-win-win deals. I would say that the overwhelmingly majority of people who do business with us are like really, really excited. At the end, sometimes there's a lot of pain associated with some of these properties, right? There's a reason why they get in this condition, and when it's all done, you just see the smile and the the relief, that comes in their face. I love to see that.
Yeah, yeah. With this guy, I kind of felt when he had finally sold the property, it was almost like it had taken up so much of his life that he kind of, in a way, I don't want to say liked dealing with the problem, but it was almost like a hobby that occupied a lot of his
Yeah.
mind. Okay, so yes, he wanted the money, yes, he needed the money, but in a way, it was kind of hard for him to let the house go because I think what he wanted to do, his dream 25 years ago, was to buy the house. I mean, well, he owned the house, but I mean, to do this big addition
Right.
and fix the construction and have that sort of satisfaction. And when he sold it, it was almost like giving up on a dream. So it was very hard for him to kind of go through that whole process, if you know what I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was a dream of his to finish the construction.
Right.
And a lot of the investors, who flip houses all the time and they knock out a rehab in like a month or so, for them, it's it would seem kind of strange. Like, why haven't you finished the construction? Like, it
Right.
seems, for them it's easy. Like they just got money, they get hard money loans or whatever, and for them, it's no problem to knock out the construction. Just finish it off. We're like, why doesn't he finish it off? We can't
Right.
understand this. But the reason is because he was a bit of a perfectionist,
Right.
so he wanted to do everything himself.
Right.
Okay. Like, I mean, so he wasn't a framer or drywall, or I mean, he wasn't a general contractor,
Right.
but he was trying to do everything that a general contractor does.
I took
And the city was giving him a real hard time.
well, I'm going to take 3 points away from this. If you want little teaching points, is that okay, Tim?
Yeah.
Number one is that you didn't just send letters, right? So when you're in Southern California, you could send a bunch of letters, and you're going to do business with some people, but you're also competing with like every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there, right? And so
Yeah.
I love the initiative of you actually getting on the phone and making it happen. So that's the first lesson. If you're a new wholesaler, you got to be willing to do what other people won't. So that's number one. Number two is um, is 8 years later, right? You are still following up with this guy, right?
Hmm.
Very few deals that we have done. We buy between 10 and 20 houses a month, right? But very few are people who call us up the first day, right, and say, I want to do business right now, right? It's all about the follow up. As a matter of fact, we have a great couple right next door here, and they've come in to do business with us, and I think this is like the third or fourth conversation that they've come into the office. Um, and then even on top of that, you went door knocking and got
Hmm.
the deal, which is awesome. The fourth is you partnered with another wholesaler, right? You couldn't sell it to your own buyers list, and so you partnered with us. And so we really appreciate that. By the way, if you are watching this and you're like, hey, how can we co-wholesale with Get It Done House Buyers? That's our company. I'll put our phone number and website below this YouTube video so you can take a look at that, so you won't have to search the internet like Tim did.
Hmm.
Um, But finally, when a seller says no, it never means no. It always means not yet, right? So, I got from the fact that initially this guy says, no, I'm not interested in selling. 8 years ago, he probably had the same problems, right? But mentally, he wasn't there, and he couldn't see the fact that, look, I'm never going to rehab this property myself, right? And so a chain of events had to happen. The pain of looking at this thing every day had to come to a point to where he says, you know what? I just can't do it anymore. And that was the first time I heard that story. And it's an awesome learning experience.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you have advice for any wholesalers out there, one piece of advice, what would it be if they're looking for their first or next property?
Well, I'll tell you this. He told me, he said in the 25 years that this house is being vacant or under construction, he says, guess how many people came to visit him at his house? Two. I was the second one.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I'm just saying, if you're trying to get yeah,
Door knock,
knocking on
baby.
the door, yeah, I was
Yeah.
the second one. So hardly anybody does that kind of
Right.
stuff. They
Right.
just mail letters, which, I mean, mailing letters is great. I mean, because if you mail the letters and the people call you, they calling you because they are interested in selling the house. Whereas you go knock on the door, maybe it could be a little bit of time wasting there, but you're going to be one of the only people knocking on those doors.
Doing that. Right. And so you got to do what other people won't. You know what I'm going to do too? I want to put this on our blog, but there's a video from a movie called Any Given Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a speech that he gives in halftime, and it's called A Game of Inches. Life is a game of inches, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to fight for that inch, right, to get to the result, right? If to the championship is a game of inches. So what I'll do is I will embed that video into this blog post,
Yeah.
so people could watch that. I'd love to send it to you, because what you did there is that you went that one extra inch, right, to get the deal. And only 2 people in 9 years have ever came to his door. That's pretty amazing, Tim.
It was actually in 25 years.
Oh, 25 years. Sorry.
Yeah, because the house
That's
has been
awesome.
like that for 25 years. 22 people.
That's
I was
awesome.
the second one.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate you doing this interview, and we hope to do a lot more business in the future.
Sure. Thank you.
And by the way, if as a reminder, if you want to co-wholesale a deal with us, if you want to lock it up and you want access to our buyers list, one of the things that we do is we have very, very good relationships, as you heard from Tim, ironically. We've done a business with a lot of these people, and we actually have a proprietary bidding system in which if you partner with us, you'll actually probably make it more money joint venturing with us than you will if you wholesale it on your own. So it's an option.
Yeah.
Phone number and website are below, and I will see you on the next episode of the Southern California Real Estate Investing Podcast.
Thanks, Todd.
See you later.
All right, bye.